Okay, so this is page 71. Doris Crockford shook Harry's hand one last time, and Hagrid led them through the bar out into a small walled courtyard where there was nothing but a trash can and a few weeds. Hagrid grinned at Harry. "Told you, didn't I? Told you was famous. Even Professor Quirrell was trembling to meet you. Mind you, he's normally trembling." "Is he always that nervous?" "Oh yeah, poor bloke, brilliant mind. He was fine while he was studying out of books, but then took a year off to get some first-hand experience. They say he met vampires in the Black Forest, and there was a nasty bit of trouble with a hag. Never been the same since. Scared of the students. Scared of his own subject now. Where's me umbrella?" "Vampires? Hags?" Harry's head was swimming. Hagrid, meanwhile, was counting bricks in the wall above the trash can. 3 up, 2 across, he muttered. "Right. Stand back, Harry." He tapped the wall 3 times with the point of his umbrella. The brick he had touched quivered. It wiggled. In the middle, a small hole appeared. It grew wider and wider. A second later, they were facing an archway large enough for even Hagrid, an archway onto a cobbled street that twisted and turned out of sight. "Welcome," said Hagrid, "to Diagon Alley." He grinned at Harry's amazement. They stepped through the archway. Harry looked quickly over his shoulder and saw that the archway shrank instantly back into a solid wall. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons outside the nearest shop. Cauldrons, all sizes, copper, brass, pewter, silver, self-stirring, collapsible, said a sign hanging over them. "Yeah, you'll be needing one," said Hagrid, "but we gotta get your money first." Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. He turned his head in every direction as they walked up the street, trying to look at everything at once. The shops, the things outside him, the people doing their shopping. A plump woman outside an apothecary was shaking her head as they passed, saying, "Dragon liver, 17 sickles an ounce? They're mad." A low, soft hooting came from a dark shop with a sign saying, "Eylops Owl Emporium." Tawny, Screech, Barn, Brown, and Snowy, several boys about Harry's age, had their noses pressed against a window with broomsticks in it. "Look," Harry heard one of them say, "the new Nimbus 2000, fastest ever." They were shops selling robes, shops selling telescopes, and strange sort of instruments Harry had never seen before. Windows stacked with barrels of bats, spleens, and eel's eyes, tottering piles of spellbooks, quills and rolls of parchment, potion bottles, globes of the moon. "Gringotts," said Hagrid. They had reached a snowy white building that towered over the other little shops. Standing beside its burnished brown doors, wearing a uniform of starlit gold, was, "Yeah, that's a goblin," said Hagrid quietly as they walked up the white stone steps. The goblin was about a head shorter than Harry. He had a swarthy, clever face, a pointed beard, and Harry noticed very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with words engraved upon it. "Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you sneak beneath our floors, a treasure that was never yours. Thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there." Yeah, like I said, you'd be mad to try and rob it. A pair of goblins bowed to them through the silver doors, and they were in a vast marble hall. About 100 more goblins were sitting on high stools behind a long counter, scribbling in large ledgers, weighing coins in brass scales, examining precious stones through eyeglasses. There were too many doors to count off leading to the hall, and yet more goblins were showing people in and out of these. Hagrid and Harry made for the counter. "Morning," said Hagrid to a free goblin. "We come to take out some money for Mr. Harry Potter's safe. You have his key, sir?" "Got it here somewhere," said Hagrid, and he started emptying his pockets onto the counter, scattering a handful of moldy dog biscuits over the goblin's book of numbers. The goblin wrinkled his nose. Harry watched the goblin on the right weighing a pile of rubies as big as glowing coals. "Got it," said Hagrid at last, holding up a tiny golden key. Goblin looked at it closer. "That seems to be in order. And I've also got a letter here from Professor Dumbledore," said Hagrid, importantly throwing it at his chest. "It's about the you-know-what in Vault 713. Goblin read the letter carefully. "Very well," he said, handing it back to Hagrid. "I will have someone take you down to Old Vault. Griphook?" Griphook was yet another goblin. Once Hagrid had crammed all the dog biscuits back inside his pockets, he and Harry followed Griphook towards one of the doors leading off to the hall. "What's the you-know-what in Vault 713? Harry asked. "Can't tell you that," said Hagrid mysteriously. "Very secret Hogwarts business. Dumbledore's trusted me. More'n my job's worth to tell you that." Griphook held the door open for them. Harry, who had expected more marble, was surprised. They were in a narrow stone passageway, lit with flaming torches. It sloped steeply downward, and there were little railway tracks on the floor. Griphook whistled as a small cart came hurtling up the tracks towards them. They climbed in, Hagrid with some difficulty, and were off. At first, they hurtled through a maze of twisting passages. Harry tried to remember left, right, left, middle fork, right, left, but it was impossible. The rattled cart seemed to know its own way because Griphook was in steering. Harry's eyes stung as the cold air rushed past him, but he kept them wide open. Once he thought he saw a burst of fire at the end of a passage and twisted around to see if it was dragon, but too late they plunged even deeper, passing an underground lake where huge stalactites and stalagmites grew from the ceiling and floor. "I never know," said Harry called to Hagrid over the noise of them. "What's the difference between a stalagmite and a stalactite?" "A stalagmite's got an M in it," said Hagrid, "and don't ask me questions just now. I think I'm going to be sick." He did look very green, and when the cart stopped at last behind the small door in the passage wall, Hagrid got out and had to lean against the wall to stop his knees from trembling. Griphook unlocked the door. A lot of green smoke came billowing in, and as it clears, Harry gasped. Inside were mounds of gold coins, columns of silver, heaps of little bronze nuts. "All yours," mouthed Hagrid. "All Harry's." It was incredible. The Dursleys couldn't have known about this, or they've had it from him faster than blinking. How often did they complain how much Harry cost them to keep? And all the time there had been a small fortune belonging to him buried deep under London. Hagrid helped Harry piled some of it into a bag. "The gold ones are galleons," he explained. 17 silver sickles to a galleon and 29 nuts to a sickle. It's easy enough." "Right, that should be enough for a couple of terms. We'll keep the rest safe for you." He turned to Griphook. "Roll 713 now, please. And can we go more slowly?" "One speed only," said Griphook. They were going even deeper now and gathered speed. The air became colder and colder as they hurtled around tight corners. They went rattling over an underground ravine, and Harry leaned over the side to see what was down the dark bottom, but Hagrid groaned and pulled himself back by the scruff of his neck. Vault 713 had no keyhole. "Stand back," said Griphook importantly. He stroked the door gently with one of his long fingers, and it simply melted away. "If anyone but a Gringotts goblin tried that, they'd be sucked through the door and trapped in there," said Griphook. "How often do you check to see if anyone's inside?" Harry asked. "About once every 10 years, said Griphook with a rather nasty grin. Something really extraordinary had to be inside this top security vault, Harry was sure. He leaned forward eagerly, expecting to see fabulous jewels at the very least, but at first he thought it was empty. Then he noticed a grubby little package wrapped up in brown paper lying on the floor. Hagrid picked it up and tucked it deeply inside his coat. Harry longed to know what it was, but knew better than to ask. "Come on back in this infernal cart, and don't talk to me on the way back. It's best if I keep me mouth shut." One wild cart ride later, and they stood blinking inside the sunlight outside Gringotts. Harry didn't know where to run first, now that he had a bag full of money. He didn't know how many gallons there were to a pound to know that he was holding more money than he'd ever had in his whole life. More money than even Dudley had ever had. "Might as well get you your uniform," said Hagrid, nodding towards Madame Malkin's robe for all occasion. "Listen, Harry, would you mind if I slipped off for a pick-me-up in the Leaky Cauldron? I hate them Gringotts carts." He did still look a bit sick, so Harry entered Madame Malkin's shop alone, feeling nervous. Madame Malkin was a squat, smiling witch dressed in all mauve. "Hogwarts, dear," she said when Harry started to speak. "Got the lot here. Another young man being fitted up just now, in fact." At the back of the shop, a boy with pale, pointed face was standing on a footstool, while a second witch pinched up his long black robes. Madame Malkin stood Harry on a stool next to him, slipped a long robe over his head, and began to pin it to the right length. "Hello," said the boy. "Hogwarts too?" "Yes," said Harry. "My father's next door buying me books, and my mother's up the street looking at wands," said the boy. He had a bored, drawling voice. "And then I'm going to drab them off and look at racing grooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one, and I'll smuggle it in somehow." Harry was strongly reminded of Dudley. "Have you got your own broom?" The boy went on. "No," said Harry. "Play Quidditch at all?" "No," said Harry again, wondering on earth what Quidditch could be. "I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play for my house, and I must say I agree. Know what house you'll be in yet?" "No," said Harry, feeling more stupid by the minute. "Well, no one really knows until they get there, do there? But I know I'll be in Slytherin. All our family have been. Imagine being in Pufflepuff. I think I'd leave, wouldn't you?" Said Harry, wishing he could say something a bit more interesting. "Ooh, look at that man," said the boy suddenly, looking towards the front window. Hagrid was standing out there, grinning at Harry and pointing to 2 large ice creams, so he couldn't come in. "That's Hagrid," said Harry, pleased to know something the boy didn't. "He works at Hogwarts." "Oh," said the boy. "I've heard of him. He's sort of a servant, isn't he?" "He's the gamekeeper," said Harry. He was liking the boy less and less every second. "Yes, exactly. I heard he's sort of savage, lives in a hut on the school grounds. Every now and then he gets drunk and tries to do magic and ends up setting fire to his bed." "I think he's brilliant," said Harry coldly. "Do you?" said the boy with a slight sneer. "Why is he with you? Where are your parents?" "They're dead," said Harry shortly. He didn't feel like going into the matter with this boy. "Oh, sorry," said the other, not sounding sorry at all. "But then, they were our kind, weren't they?" "Yes, they were a witch and wizard, if that's what you mean." I really don't think they should let the others short in, do you? They're just not the same. They've never been brought up our ways. Some of them have never even heard of Hogwarts until they get the letter. Imagine. I think they should keep it in the old wizarding families. What's your surname, anyway? Before Harry could answer, Madam Malkin said, That's done. That's it. You're done, my dear. And Harry, not sorry for an excuse to stop talking to the boy, hopped down from the footstool. Well, I'll see you at Hogwarts, I suppose, said the drooling boy. Harry was rather quiet as he ate the ice cream Hagrid had bought him. Chocolate and raspberry with chopped nuts. What's up, said Hagrid. Nothing, Harry lied. They stopped by a parchment and quills. Harry cheered up a bit when he found a bottle of ink that changed color as you wrote. They left the shop. He said, Hagrid, what's Quidditch? Oh, blimey, Harry, I keep forgetting how little you know, not knowing about Quidditch. Don't make me feel worse, said Harry. He told Hagrid about the pale boy and Madam Malkin's, and he said people from Muggle families shouldn't be allowed in. You're not from a Muggle family. If you'd known who you were, he was growing up knowing your name, if his parents are wizarding folk. You saw it. Everyone in the leaky cauldron was like when they saw you. Anyway, what does he know about it? Some of the best he ever saw was ones with magic in them, a long line of Muggles. Look at your mom. Look what she had for a sister. So what is Quidditch? It's our sport, wizard sport. It's like soccer in the Muggle world. Everyone follows Quidditch, played up in the air on broomsticks, and there's 4 balls. Started hard to explain all the rules. And what are Slytherin and Hufflepuff? Schoolhouses. There's 4. Everyone says Hufflepuff are a lot of duffers, but I'll bet I'm in Pufflepuff, said Harry grimly. Better Hufflepuff than Slytherin, said Harry darkly. There's not a single witch or wizard who went bad that wasn't in Slytherin. You know who was you know who was at Hogwarts? Years and years ago. They bought Harry's school books in a shop called Flourish and Blots, where the shelves were stacked to the ceilings with books and large paving stones bound in leather, books the size of postage stamps and covers of silk, books of peculiar symbols, and a few books with nothing in them at all. Even Dudley, who never read anything, would have been wild to get his hands on some of these. Hagrid almost had to drag Harry away from curses and counter-curses, bewitch your friends, and befuddle your enemies with the latest revenges, hair lost jelly legs, tongue-tying, and much, much more, by Professor Vindictus Virium. I should find out how to curse Dudley. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but you're not to use magic in the Muggle world, except in very special circumstances, said Hagrid. Anyway, you couldn't work any of them curses yet. You'll need a lot more studying before you can get to that level. Hagrid wouldn't let Harry buy a solid gold cauldron either. It says pewter on your list, but they got a nice set of sails for weighing the potion ingredients and a collapsible brass telescope. Then they visited the apothecary, which was fascinating enough to make up for its horrible smell. A mixture of bad eggs and rotted cabbages, barrels of slimy stuff on the floor, jars of herbs, dried roots, and bright powders lined the walls. Bundles of feathers, strings, and fangs, and snarled claws hung from the ceiling. While Hagrid asked the man behind the counter for a supply of some basic potion ingredients for Harry, Harry himself examined silver unicorn horns at 21 galleons each and a minuscule glittery black beetle eyes, 5 nuts askew. Outside the apothecary, Hagrid checked Harry's list again. Just your one left. Oh yeah, and I still haven't got your birthday present. Harry felt himself go red. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Tell you what, I'll get you your animal. Not toads. Toads went out of fashion years ago. You'll be laughed at. And I don't like cats. They make me sneeze. I'll get you an owl. All the kids want owls. They're dead useful. Carry your mail and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Eyelop's owl emporium, which had been dark and full of rustling, glittering, jewel-bright eyes. Harry now carried a large cage that held a beautiful snowy owl, fast asleep with her head under her wing. He couldn't stop stammering his thanks. It sounded just like Professor Quirrell. Don't mention it, said Hagrid gruffly. Don't expect you've had a lot of presents from them Dursleys. Just Ollivanders left now. Only place for wands, Ollivanders, and you gotta have the best wand. Magic wand. This is what Harry had really been looking forward to.